Mentor was live. Hello, hello. Welcome to Monday Mentor with Jen. I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict, cultivate communication, and create empowered teams. And on Monday Mentor, I always bring in a fabulous guest. Today, we have Gen Z, and she is going to help us so much to talk about why our leadership really needs experiences as a community, why we need gifts, why gifts are important, and just the practices of gratitude. So I'm so excited she's here today. She is a keynote speaker. She is the founder and CEO of the Future You Project, and just so glad you're here today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. Thanks, Jen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you signed up for this date, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fortuitous because it's Thanksgiving week. And I think sometimes, we get into the holidays as leaders and we're like, oh, I got to do something for the people. And I think we can stretch that out and have a more meaningful conversation than, as much as I love a good cheese board, like we can talk about this in a different way. So I really love starting when I have guests to let you talk a little bit about, how did you get here? You have such a great story. So tell us, how did you arrive here, and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So Future You Project was founded based on a personal experience of mine. I was actually climbing the corporate ladder, living my dream life, and doing what I love to do. And I was living in Charleston, where I am today, actually Charleston, South Carolina, with family. And I got a job offer to go back to the company I was working for the majority of my career, to be groomed to take over as general manager in a director of operations role. And it was like my dream job. And so my family and I, packed up the car, sold the house, moved back to Miami so I could take this opportunity. And throughout the process, I shockingly got divorced. And so when we got to Miami, I suddenly was new job, new state, new life, everything. And I really struggled with it. I went through a really difficult period of my life where I suddenly, went from being full-time mom, full-time career woman, full-time wife, to all of a sudden, on the days when my ex-husband had my son, in the evenings, I was completely alone, and I had no idea what to do in that space. And meanwhile, I was growing my career at the same time. And so I just had all this stuff going on. And the most miraculous thing in the world happened to me. I started receiving anonymous packages in the mail from the future version of myself, Future Jen. And the first one was some flowers and some chocolates. And she said, hey girl, I know you're going through a really hard time right now, but I want you to know you're so much stronger than you're giving yourself credit for. There's a light at the end of this tunnel. Hang in there. The future is bright. Everything's going to be okay. Love, Future Jen. And I had no idea who was sending this to me. But for 5 weeks in a row, Future Jen came by, brought an inspirational gift and words of encouragement, just really encouraging me to believe in myself again, reimagine the possibilities of my future, reconnect with joy, and, tap into what my interests were and my hobbies were, and just rebuild my life. And so while I was doing that, while I was inspired by Future Jen, I made major intentional changes in my life, like major, because when Future Jen would say to me, do something that brings you joy, I'd be like, I don't even know what that is, right? Like I have no idea. So I started carving out I started making a list of what I now refer to as the 6 key areas of life. And I looked at my physical and mental health. I looked at my family and relationship fulfillment. I looked at my work and career satisfaction, financial wellness and health. I looked at spiritual wellness and community contributions. And I started looking at each area and rating myself on a scale from 1 to 10. How do I feel like I'm doing in this area? And overall, how joyous am I? So anyway, through that process, I started making very calculated, intentional decisions about how I was approaching my life, started meditating, started working out, signed up for Spartan, took dance lessons. And what this ended up doing is it made me a better leader. It made me a better friend. It made me a better person. It really upped my self-worth, and before I knew it, this 2 to 3 year plan that I had to take over as general manager catapulted into an 11 months later, I was promoted. And then I'm moving into my corner office in Miami the day I got the promotion. I'm 70 pounds lighter. I ran a Spartan race. Never thought I mean, when I started this, I couldn't run 30 seconds to keep up with my son. Like I was just this completely different person. And anyway, so I'm moving into my corner office, and that day I got a delivery from, a flower guy, and he puts a bonsai tree down on my desk. And the bonsai tree has a note that says, "I told you so, future Jen." And so that was, I can't even begin to tell you, Jen, like I just stood there and I went, oh my gosh, here I thought my transformation journey was over, but it's just getting started, because I knew in that moment, Jen, I had to share this with the world.
Yeah.
This concept was so powerful. Again, personally and professionally, we really are about how to thrive in life and business, because the power of words. I learned a lot about vulnerability. I learned a lot about the power of the words that we choose to use. I learned a lot about when you're more comfortable with yourself and confident with yourself as a leader, how that translates to your team. And it just was a whole journey. So anyway, that's how we started with the Future You project. I went home that night and I started writing down all of the times in a person's life, personally and professionally, when they could use encouragement, words of hope, kudos, because I feel like we don't do that enough. Like, we're so awesome and we never stop to say, wow, you're amazing. Like, look at how far you've come, and we've started building out this gifting program. And then that spiraled into the keynotes and the workshops and the courses and the classes and the virtual seminars, everything that you can possibly imagine that helps inspire you and others to thrive in life and business. We've got the whole kit and caboodle.
Amazing. I mean, like, I have so many goosebumps about your story, and just, I'm like torn between the curiosity of who was this anonymous person, and just loving the mystery of it. Like,
Yeah.
just let the mystery be what it is. I'm sure half the people listening are like freaking out with the, like, oh my gosh, don't make me mysterious. And the other, are like, yes, the mystery of that.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dig in a little bit about one of the things I talk a lot about is the concept of self-leadership. And your story really exemplifies that. Like, your 2 to 3 year plan wasn't actually, let's get my team in shape so I can show off how good I am. It was like, let's get myself under control, myself, not necessarily just under control, but living in the fullest and most integrated life that allows me then to manage well, that allows me to help my team do that. So talk to me a little bit about, what was that shift for you? How did you realize this isn't out there problem? This is, I got to do me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It was a gradual thing. I don't think it happened overnight, but I had that aha moment after the fact when I went, oh, this is what people mean when they say fill your cup first, right? Because unless your cup is full, you can't give to others because you don't have it to give. So that whole thing about, Oprah talks about it a lot too. Fill up your cup so when your cup runneth over, that is what you can give to other people. I never knew that before because I was always a people pleaser and I was always giving more of myself than I had. And I was, because of that, I mean, if you could see the before and afters, if you go to my website later, you'll see I had dark circles under my eyes. Like I said, I was 70 pounds overweight. I could barely run. I was fatigued constantly. I had major stress. I was always sick. Right. And it was because I was giving more than I had. And so when I started to realize that when I was making these choices for myself and I was putting myself first, it was not a selfish act, because then I had more to give. I just never knew that that was even possible, So for me, that was the biggest aha moment that I had, was we have to take care of ourselves first, because then we are so much more able to give to others, and we're more confident in who we are. So, this allows us to give from a different place as well, right?
Absolutely. I like to talk about it that leaders are the reservoir. And if you've got a dry reservoir, it does nothing. It doesn't do anything. And I also like to use, because I like water analogies apparently, that culture is like a canal. And so if the reservoir feeds the canal and the reservoir is empty, that canal is just dry. And there's all kinds of gunk that comes in there rather than what you want it to be. And so unless we are filling and knowing ourselves and how we want to align with our values and take care of who we are, nothing overflows. And so it just fills in with not necessarily the worst of us, but maybe the not so best of us
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
gets filled into that
Oh,
canal.
and you know
So
what I love about you, Jen, is you're so tapped into joy, because that was the other thing that I
it is my
realized.
title, but
Yeah, I mean, but it's so critical. I don't think people realize, like, joy is everything. Joy and
yeah.
gratitude, right? And you one cannot survive without the other, so they're so intertwined. But that I didn't realize that when I was unhappy for so many years, right?
Mhm.
So until I had that shaking moment that it was like, you've got to make this shift. I don't think I would have ever made the intentional choices that I did that made me so happy. And when I became a happier, more thriving person, then again, work was more fun. I was
Yeah.
able to be more relaxed. I was able to, just not take things so seriously and
Mhm.
be more authentic, and make everyone around me happier and more comfortable, right? So it opened me up to that. If we're just ourselves and we just have fun and we do our
Mhm.
best, everybody wants to show up at their
Yeah.
highest level, right? It just
Yeah.
creates this energy
Mhm.
that is magnetic, and I truly believe it starts with gratitude and it starts with joy.
I agree. And I mean, just to continue the water analogies, it's the old saying of a rising tide raises all boats. Like
Yes,
if that energy is contagious, and we all have experienced the one, you know, Debbie Downer in the group who like brings everybody down, but the reverse is true. And especially as a leader, you get to set the tone. And
yeah,
I firmly believe that moms, we set the tone in our house. We have so much ability to change the energy around us when
yes,
we realize, oh, that starts with me. Like
yes,
leadership isn't just the people, it starts with us. Like that self leadership is so
100%.
important.
Yes.
But one of the things I really love about your story is that you started doing these things. And when I was thinking about sharing how I wanted to share our talk, I was reminded of an experience I had not very long ago at Disneyland. And I was walking with a new friend, and we were kind of just talking about something, but I never would have come up with the idea that I came up with had we had not done this particular experience. Now, I had never been to Disneyland. It was so fun. Like Disneyland is an experience, but we can create experiences in all kinds of ways. So, what are some of the things that you did to create new experiences to help you figure out what does fill me up? What do I
Yeah.
want to put in that brings out? So, just talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, my joy journal was the big one. And that's what really started sparking more conversations at work.
Mm,
Was I had said to myself, so the very first thing that I did when I wrote down my 6 areas of life, okay, how,
mhm.
I like I said, I rated myself. I asked myself, how joyous am I? And I thought, if one was like clinically depressed and 10 was overjoyed, I rated myself at a 2. And I
Mm.
thought, well, that's not good.
Let's not stay here.
That's not great. So what do I do about that? And like I said, I had no idea what even brought me joy. So I decided I would get myself a little pocketbook. And I put it in my purse and I said, Jen, anytime anything makes you smile, anything big or small, write it down in the journal. And then every night I would look at my pocketbook and I would read whatever made me happy that day. And I'd say, okay, Jen, tomorrow do more of that. So I would start
Mhm.
each day saying, okay, I'm going to repeat what made me happy yesterday, and hopefully I'll add a few things along the way.
Yeah.
And so people started seeing me with this journal. I'd be like, oh, I just laughed, okay, I'm going to write it down. And so people were like, what are you doing? And one of the very first things that happened to me is I was in the lunchroom at work, and some salsa music started playing, and a colleague of mine started to grab me and started dancing. And I was so happy, and I'm a terrible dancer. But one of the very first things that I did, I wrote that down in my journal, and I went home that night and I went on Google and I found an instructor to come to my house every Monday night to teach me how to salsa dance in my kitchen, because it was in my kitchen that I had my, like, I don't know if you've been divorced, but divorce is super hard. And
Oh,
so I remember one of my girlfriends saying to me, Jen, like, you need to be prepared. At some moment, you're going to fall down in the fetal position and just start crying. She said, like, for me, it was in the supermarket. So I hope for you, it's at home. Like, and then when that happened to me, I was cooking and I was in my kitchen and I had that moment. And so I thought,
mm.
if that's where I fell, that is where I will rise. And
Yes.
I got this
Yes.
instructor and I had him come every Monday. So, and everyone always knew, I was going on Monday nights. I was out at 5:30 because I had my dance lessons. And I also think, again, as a leader, when your leader leads by example.
Absolutely.
Right. I really realized that in that moment too. It was like, no, you got to go take care of you. We're out. We're done. You know, if something's urgent, we can deal with it later or whatever, but it's okay to have a life as well. Like, you know,
in
and what
fact, I would argue that it is required.
100%.
It's required to have a life outside of work because we are whole people living whole lives. And work
Yes.
is a slice. And it's
Yes.
an important slice. It's a
Yes.
very important slice. And I
Yes.
want my work to have meaning and purpose. And not every second of every day is filled with excitement, but it has purpose, but it's still just a sliver.
Yeah.
But we have to have a whole integrated life.
Yes. And so, you know, and then it was like, so what do you do to make yourself smile? Like, what do
Yeah.
you do to help you thrive in life, you know? And so then you open up that conversation where other people are sharing their interests and it's okay. And it's a safe space to do that. Right. Like, so like all these cool things started happening, but that was definitely the first experience was my joy journal. And then of course, you know, the future you concept, as I was building it out, grew into if we were onboarding somebody, it was like, hey, welcome. We're, you know, imagine, right? We do this now, a letter from your future self on your first day of your new job saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're here. What a journey you have ahead of you with this company. You're going to learn and grow so much and you're going to be so supported and blah, blah, you know, and so that goes on for 5-6 weeks in a row while you're onboarding and creating this really cool experience for your new staff members. And then carry that through 1 year anniversary, your future self comes back and says, hey, just, you know, it's just all tied in and interconnected. And it's a really cool experience because there's something different when your boss tells you you're doing a good job or your mother tells you you're going to be okay versus when you, right, come back and you say, girl or dude or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You are crushing it. You've got this. You're going to be okay. This is, you know,
well,
it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah. And it's a muscle of building self-trust. Like we can only take in the appreciation and praise of others for so much before we start to be like, that is it true? Because it's not that internal experience. But there is something about creating that self-trust that really that changes our agency and it shifts our energy in a way that's so positive, so positive. It's like when you're talking about the future you, one of the activities I do with my clients when they start in my coaching program is that idea of like, what does this look like? And I have them walk through a process of a letter to themselves, you know, and there is so much research and power, like experiential, but also, you know, academic research about that state and what that does for us. And I think we're so skeptical of it because we're not super comfortable with mystery, but actually the mystery of it is part of that process of building self-trust. Like we can't get there without that little bit of mystery. And it's so powerful. Oh my gosh. I can't believe we're out of time. I want to talk for forever.
Are we out of time already?
I know it's only 20 minutes and it's like, no, we're just so so you have said so many golden nuggets. And if you are watching the replay, let us know that you're watching the replay. I know that a few of you are here live and we've just been talking and haven't even asked you any questions. So we're so glad that you were here. Jen, would you just tell the people where to find you, what you talk about, like just invite the people into your world?
Yes, thank you. So first thing I would hope everyone does is go to futureyouproject.com.
Right here.
Yep. And we have a newsletter program where if you sign up, you get 3 free inspirational gifts. They're digital prints and adult coloring books with I am affirmations and just really cool stuff. 3 free gifts in 3 days when you sign up for the newsletter. So please do that. And then when you head over to our website, you'll see, again, we have all the programs, gifts, and events that will inspire you through all stages of life and business. So I invite you to explore those. We have our Future You community, which is amazing. And so many perks in that. I can't even begin to list them. So please head to the website and read them. But that would be my number one recommendation. It's so much value for money as the Future You community. And we have many businesses that will support their staff members as part of their wellness initiatives. This is becoming very popular. So I invite you to look at that as well.
great. Sorry, I'm looking over here because I'm trying to put it in the comments, and we've already talked about doing two things at once can be challenging. So
Yeah. No, I know.
we have that there. So
I'm
you
so good.
can check out Jen, follow her here on LinkedIn. And I would love to invite you in a couple weeks. I am going to do, remember when Jen was talking earlier, she sat down and she I'm going to look at what I'm doing. I'm going to evaluate and rate. I actually have a workshop coming up called the Catalyst Impact Leadership Audit. And we're going to go through and where am I? And because sometimes that can be really daunting. And so I would love to guide you through that. So if you're interested in that, you can go here and find out at the Catalyst Impact Free Workshop as well. But make sure that you follow Jen. As you can tell, Heather is already telling us it's amazing. And Jen, I am I'm so grateful you were here. This is such a perfect conversation, and to broaden the idea of really what gratitude and gifts and experiences are in our worlds that just makes all of work and life better. And I'm really grateful for the work that you do. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Everybody in the US who is celebrating Thanksgiving, Canadians, sorry you were, last month we missed you. But we're so glad that you are here. Next week, it will be just me. It's an actual solo show, and I'm going to be talking about the importance of knowing yourself as a leader and why we start with that. So please join me next week. We're going to spend 20 minutes talking about that. Jen, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Aww.